And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parenthood's virtual roundtable discussion. My name is Lily Shah, and I'm the editor of Parenthood magazine, and I'll be your moderator for today. So today we'll be talking about life beyond MCO. We'll be talking about recommended best practices for schools, at home, as well as the workplace. So if you're watching this live right now, please share this session with your friends. You can even create a live watching party, get them to watch them with you, get them on board, and we'll also be taking your questions along the way throughout the whole show. So just type it out in the comment section and I will be able to see it and ask our panelists as they come on. So without further ado, I'm going to start inviting our guests in to screen. First of all, we have Dato Dr. Rajbans Singh, President of the Malaysian Wellness Society. Hello, Dato.
Hello, afternoon.
Hi, all right. And we have Miss Faye Tan, who is the Principal of Baby Atelier. Hi.
Good afternoon, Lily. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. Okay, next up we have Miss Siew Julie, who is a psychologist at Seed Connections.
Hi, Lily. Hi, everyone.
All right, welcome to the show. And next up, we have Dr. Anushree Narayanan, who's a consultant pediatrician and neonatologist at Pantai Hospital, Kuala Lumpur.
Hi, good afternoon, Lily. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right, okay. So last but not least, we have Miss Jo-Lynn, who is in color innovation and leadership for Nippon Paint. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us today. So basically for today's topic, right, a lot of parents are in conflict or confused about the whole situation at the moment. And this pandemic has changed our lives dramatically. Would you say so?
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. So we're required to stay home and only go out when it's absolutely necessary. But now with the CMCO, it's a little bit complicated. Parents need to go back to work, but children are still not in school. So it hasn't been easy for a lot of people. Some may not have anyone to take care of their children. Somebody doesn't have they don't have anyone to facilitate online classes when it comes to their children. So kids are affected as well during this whole pandemic. Now, all of a sudden, when MCO started, kids stop going to school, right? And all this while, they've been told to stay away from phones and stay away from the computer. And suddenly now, they are required and forced to sit in front of a laptop and phone, or maybe a phone, for online classes. So my 3-year-old son, he still comes up to me sometimes and he said, "Mom, there's no school today?" You know, he's still a little bit confused with the whole situation at the moment. And I have to explain to him, there's still the virus out there and whatnot. So, okay, enough of me talking. I'm going to start off with Miss Siew Julie. How has the MCO and now CMCO affected our children?
Okay, well, as we all know, when the MCO first began, I know that many kids were very happy. They thought that it was like an extended holiday, right? So instead of getting their 1 week break, they were getting a much longer break, 2 weeks at first. And very soon after that, they realized that this extended holiday doesn't actually feel like an extended holiday because it's nothing like their normal school holiday. They were required to stay home. They couldn't meet up with their friends. There were no play dates. They couldn't be out in places where they would like to be, like the playgrounds, play gyms, pools, and other recreational activities that they would normally do during their school holidays. So firstly, it was a complete change in their routine. And it definitely had emotional or even psychological impact on some children. So I have parents reporting that their kids started to act out, in terms of like having more temper tantrums. They were frustrated at home. They had all kinds of different behaviors, So some kids were acting out in an aggressive manner. Other kids were withdrawing. Some were anxious, asking, is this COVID thing going to affect me? When can I see my friends? So these were all the adjustments that children had to I would say transit to during this period of time. So for some kids, it was easy. Some kids took it easier, but many kids, in a way or another, we do see them affected emotionally. So there is a sense of anxiousness, and we would think that maybe only the adults are anxious, but that's not true, because even the young kids that I work with, the one who are like 5 or 6 years old, when they are not too clear about what's happening, they are actually quite anxious. They are wondering, why can't I go out? Why everybody is in mask, or why am I told to wash my hands, clean my hands, sanitize and bathe so often? So it has created a whole different routine and a whole new cycle or new experience for this kids. And even cognitively, because they have to be online right now, later on, in this MCO, they are also receiving a different message, because most parents would have told, at least I would tell my kids in the past, go off screen, no screen time, or limit
Yeah,
yourself
absolutely. I think a
right?
lot of parents do that. Yes. And
Yeah,
now
and
all of
now,
a sudden they have to be on screen a lot of every single day, every single
correct.
weekday.
Yes, so now we are telling them, go for classes. Are you in your virtual classes and all that? So it's taking a toll on some of the kids because of all this readjustment. And if you have younger kids, they are suddenly thrown into this virtual world where they need to navigate, uploading of their assignments, opening their Zoom classroom, and there's also this lack of sensorial experience for the younger one. It's
Yeah,
just a visual stimulation, but nothing for them
correct.
to touch, feel. Yeah.
And parents, I guess, take a lot of need to have time to do the sensorial activities with them as well, right?
Yes, yeah, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Yeah, so like right now, because parents might be working, and if you have, like, in the past, you might have kids in school, so you might have more time to plan for these activities during the weekend or during their breaks. But when you have to work and watch over their learning and plan these extra sensorial activities, it can be very challenging on the parents' end as well. So not only for the kids, for the adults as well, it's a big
Yeah,
transition. Yeah.
that's true. Now, colors, I understand, plays an important role in the psychology of children as well. So, since they're staying at home now and indoors 24/7 for a long period of time, as a color expert, Jo-Lynn, do you have any suggestions on what parents can perhaps do as a family project at home?
Hi, Lily. Yes, there's actually tons of things that they can do at home. But I think like what Julie has mentioned, suddenly every kid is all online. They're all doing things online on screen. So definitely simple things like your room makeovers can actually help, because these are actually good off-screen, offline activities for the family. And of course, it's definitely a good bonding time. So because one thing for sure is that we do know that colors actually have an influence over the children's state of mind and their mood as well. So it's definitely a significant impact, especially like when they're already stuck at home and they're already stuck being in that space for a very long time and having to be sitting down and concentrating on just the screen and everything. So the surroundings actually would play a part in influencing their mood and all. So in I think to begin with, a lot of times the struggle is always, what do I actually do? What kind of colors can I actually do for what kind of colors can I put on for my children and all? So I think firstly, the first thing is that you want to identify the space that you are actually working in or sitting in or experiencing activities in. So like I think the first question to always ask is, what is this space for? So is it going to be a dedicated space? For example, like some
Yeah,
children.
playroom maybe?
Yeah, playroom. Playroom. So usually playroom is always a place where they are expected to go crazy. They can express themselves, they can have fun, they can be very dynamic. So definitely, good color combinations there can actually help promote that kind of mood, that kind of behavior, because you want them to respond very proactively in that kind of space. So simple things like yellows, could actually help in creating that kind of mood.
I like yellow.
You like yellow? Good.
Yes.
But we also know that suddenly during MCO you realize that everybody's all cooped up at home, and there's a lot of spaces that's being shared. So you don't have a dedicated study room. So I think one of the most common areas, for example, like the living room, it's usually either a place where you do your conference calls and everything. But like for children, to actually get them to really stay put, to pay attention, usually the workstation is always the dining area, because that's the easiest way to actually keep them, seated. And so I think it's always very important to see, like, in the dining room, what kind of colors are there? Is it just stark white or what? But you can actually use, my personal favorite would be simple colors like even a yellowish green. It is calming, but at the same time, it's also uplifting. Because why we don't use colors like blue, because it's maybe too relaxing. The kid will just most probably fall asleep.
Really? Is there something as too blue and too relaxing?
Yeah, of course, because you don't want the kid to be, all sleepy and too relaxed when they're supposed to be concentrating, and you're supposed to expect them to be a bit more responsive, So yeah, I mean, these are all the colors that you can actually play with. And secondly, I think because we always say makeovers, but the fear is that oh my God, do I have to do up the whole house? So no, you don't have to. You don't have to be very drastic about the makeovers that you're looking at. So I think it's also very important to understand the scale of project that you want to take on. So, like how Julie mentioned, parents, I mean, the struggle still remains. Parents are still looking for sensorial activities to have, with their kids. So, for example, if you identify that you just have one room and it's going to be doable within the weekend, and you can, get it done with your kids and everything. So, you can actually make it very bite-sized so that it's easier for the family to really do it together. Yeah,
Okay.
Little milestones.
So speaking about the whole COVID-19, Dr. Anu, what is the infection rate among children?
Well, what's been documented now that we've had a few months of collecting data all over the world is that children do not seem to be affected as commonly as adults. So from the world over, on average, it's only about 1 to 4% of all the COVID-19 positive cases in the world are children. In the broader scheme, children, it includes children and young people, so all those below the age of 18. So the numbers are small. I think in Malaysia, we've only had, I think our total numbers are over 7,000 now. We've only had about 300 plus children affected, and really none of them affected very severely.
Are the symptoms same as adults as well when it comes to kids?
Yes, I think the initial symptoms of COVID-19 are pretty non-specific. They're like any other viral infection, fever, cough, flu, sore throat. It's been written in some studies have shown that children seem to present with vomiting and diarrhea a little bit more commonly than adults do, but generally similar viral fever symptoms. Certainly in children also they can present with pneumonia and severe cough, but much less often than what we're seeing in adults.
Right. And I mean, with the whole situation at the moment, do you think it's safe for children to return to school, or when do you think it's safe?
Well, I think it's a very difficult question to answer. I think part of the problem that we have for COVID-19 is that we don't really know enough about it. We know a lot about other diseases because it's been there for years and we've seen patterns over the years, and we can sort of predict those who are going to be ill, those who are going to be okay, and we can also institute certain method by which we can keep people safe. We don't know enough about COVID. Now we know that children don't seem to be affected as much. What we don't really know is whether children who are not symptomatic, meaning a completely well child who may be sent to school, whether they're actually COVID positive or not, because the majority of children don't seem to have any symptoms. And are these children then able to spread COVID to the adults? So are they then putting the teachers and staff in the school at risk? Conversely, if children can catch COVID, will they then bring that home?
Right.
I think the concern with kids, even though we are reassured that kids don't seem to be affected so much, the concern still remains about their ability to spread the virus and how to contain it. So we're trying to contain COVID now, and I think as all of us are parents, I think the last thing we want is for our child to be ill. So even if we say it's only going to be like a normal cough and cold, we'd still rather avoid that if we can.
Right.
So it's really difficult to answer that question. There's not going to be a date soon where we're going to say, okay, by September 1st or by January 1st, it's going to be safe. We don't know. The lifting of the CMCO, the lifting of lockdowns all over the world is a mitigation of risks. It's a balance of risks. So we need to look at each individual situation and make a calculated guess.
We have a question from one of our viewers. Let me just put it up on screen. Should we send our child to school even when school reopen? That's my dilemma now. And I think that's a dilemma for a lot of parents at the moment as well. So Faye, I mean, when it comes to you're a school operator, what are some of the options for parents, say for post MCO? If some parents prefer to send them to school, some parents maybe prefer homeschooling. What are the options for parents?
Yeah, of course, the option is definitely there for us to continue keeping our children at home until to such a point that we think it's safe when the COVID-19 cases come down to zero, when a vaccine is available, or when we can be sure that there are no mutations of these viruses. But since the beginning of May, when the government implemented conditional MCO, many parents have called on us because they have to resume working, and work from home arrangements have started to end, and then this need for them to actually put their children at school or childcare centers, which is allowed to be operated under the CMCO. Then if the child needs to resume schooling, then I suppose the parents will have to make that decision or considerations on how they can make sure that your child's school is actually the second safest place after your own home. Right, so perhaps a few things to consider would be, get to know how the school is actually planning to implement or execute the new safety, hygiene, and distancing procedures, and in compliance with the government guidelines. I would say that the guidelines given by the government at this point is for childcare centers is quite strict. It's quite restrictive. So then it also goes on to see how the school has been keeping a good track record in prioritizing safety and hygiene practices even before the MCO, and whether the school actually So
what do you think are some of the assurances that schools can give to parents during this time?
Yeah, then for our schools, because we actually engage with the parents upfront, way before the date the school reopens. So we actually walk them through how is it going to be like in a day their child is going to be at baby Atelier. So from the time they come in, from the time they get dropped off, to the time, and how the circle time, the storytelling, the meal times, the nap times are all going to be carried out with the new hygiene and distancing measures being put in place. So we also need to engage with parents, because parents need to know their role because parents are going to work, they are exposed. Children are human beings that move around together with the parents. They come to school. So and we not only the school has to uphold the highest hygiene level, we also need to work with the parents in making sure that their homes, their workplaces, and their cars are actually having the optimum level of hygiene as well. Yeah, so.
Okay, so I mean, if parents do decide for the children to go to school in Singapore, they started. The government, I think, is requiring educators to take tests for COVID-19 before they start school, right? So I want to ask Dr. Rajban, what do you think about this whole situation? Should
Yeah,
the educators take the COVID-19 test before opening school? And what about the parents and the children who come to school?
Yeah, I think for ministry standpoint, our director general has said that, I can do a COVID test today. You can do a COVID test today, and you're negative, but you can still pick up the disease 1 week later, right? So how often are you going to do? And doing a test and you're negative, will that give you a false sense of confidence, or to say that, oh, I'm COVID free, so now I don't have to worry? No, because you can pick it up the day after tomorrow or 3 days later. So whether we should do the COVID test, it's something that I think right now even the ministry does not encourage. We are looking at clusters, and that's the way to go. And so I don't know whether everyone, I suppose you'll give a peace of mind if, let's say, all the teachers in the school do the COVID test and they are negative. But like you asked the question, what about the children who are, Dr. Anu said, asymptomatic children who are coming? Right? Should we test them then? Because they are the ones who might be carrying. We don't know. What about the parents? The parents should be tested. So where are we going to stop and who are we going to do? So I think that's a very difficult question to answer, and to say that people should get tested if they're coming. And then if you are going there, then who else? Where are you going to stop? Right? So if the parents
Right.
are going to be tested, what about the brothers and sisters in the house? Right? And what about their schools? And what about their workplace? So it's going to become very complicated unless you are in China where they can do 11 million in 2 weeks. I don't think so. We can do that much here. So I would focus more on other things like what Faye said about the SOPs. Right? That is the external factors, the social distancing, the hygiene, the mask and all those things, sanitizer and all that. Those are very important. But I think what a lot of people are forgetting is the internal factors. I would really focus on building up my immunity. Why? Because the last 6 months, we have seen that the people who have severe disease and the people who are dying are people with poor immune system. All people with chronic diseases have a very bad, get severely affected by COVID. Elderly people get affected by COVID. Smokers get affected by COVID. If you have cancer, you're affected by COVID. So what it shows is that people who got poor immunity are the people that are getting more severe disease and they're dying. And remember, the children are also young adults. We have the same sort of physiology. And I think that's where something we should also focus on. What can we do to improve our immunity? Now, we know studies from older people, that I did with older people. What makes your immune system get weak? Poor emotion, negative attitudes, stress, anxiety decreases your immune system. Poor nutrition decreases your immune system. Poor exercise habits, lack of exercise depresses your immune system. Lack of sleep depresses your immune system, right? Taking things that are full of toxins and all decreases your immune system. So I would actually want someone to look at these aspects, both the adults, the parents, the teachers, and the children. All should be focused on looking at the concept of wellness, right? Forget about all the fake news because it creates anxiety and fear. Look at what the Ministry of Health is saying, listen to them and follow, because they got experts who are dealing with this. They know what they're saying, right? So every other fake news, throw away, right? Because it just creates fear, because negativity creates anxiety, which is bad for the immune system. Number two, change your whole nutrition. Today's newspaper, 1 in 5 Malaysians are diabetics. Very scary. And that includes 10-year-old and above. So children are getting diabetics. So this is a very scary this thing, because we know COVID and diabetes don't go well together. So nutrition is very important. Take away all your refined carbs, cut away saturated trans fats, take away foods that are full of chemicals and toxins. Go back to nature, eat healthy food. I support plant-based diets. Go back to nature, right? I always tell people, if you eating something that your grandmother can't recognize, throw it away, because we eat natural food, right? So do that. Very important. Nutrition. Number three, exercise. Today we are not doing that, right? We are sitting in front of the computer, and now poor children, they are sitting in front of the computer again.
Even
Before we told
now,
them,
even now, we're in front of the computer.
so we finished our lectures, or we finish our work on the computer. We finish now, then we'll go back, walk a while, and then we on the television, right? And there's enough today for entertainment. So we are not moving. We are meant to move. Humans are meant to move. From the caveman to now, we're meant to move, because good exercise increases endorphins, increases your the good chemicals, the good hormones, and will improve your immunity. Sleep. Sleep is another thing that people are lacking a lot, right? And for the young kids, they need more sleep than adults. Maybe when you're old, you need less. So these are the things. And stress increases. Chronic stress increases cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that depresses the immune system. So these are simple things. We talk about these 5 simple things. Positive attitude, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and sleep. Very simple. But if you really look at it and ask yourself, very hard to do, right? Simple but not easy, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say stay positive, very difficult. Not with today's world. It's easy to say eat healthy food, very
Yeah.
difficult because a lot of us have the seafood diet. We seafood we eat, right? We are actually addicted to food. Most of us don't move anymore, right? We are
Especially
just
Malaysians, right? We love food.
yeah, we love our food. That's why I got 1 in 5 got diabetes. That's a big number, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, stress you can't run away. So how do you handle this? So I would want people to really focus, both the parents, the teachers, and help the poor kids to start from young. Look at healthy habits, not just simple healthy habits. I call them wellness habits, right? Proactively doing things every day to prevent a disease. That is very important. So start from young. Start from teaching them from young to get the right habits. And these are just habits, right? It's just habits of that you start practicing it, and you change, and you pick up one habit, you change, you pick up another, you change, and you do it step by step. It becomes because see the COVID is here. We don't know when the COVID will go away. We don't know when it's going to mutate. We don't know when the next virus will come. We had the SARS, we had the Nipah, we had the H1N1, and they'll keep on coming. So we can do external factors, very important, but also the internal. You must build up immunity. And immunity is not going to be built up over the next 1-2 days. It takes a few weeks to months to build it up. Right? Start
Dr.
today, start
Anushree, sorry, Dr. Anushree, what's your opinion? How should parents prepare their children if they decide to put them back into school? What are some of the SOPs that parents should look into?
I think I follow on from what Dr. Rajbans says. It's very, very important to make sure that kids are staying healthy. We are, as pediatricians, we are also extremely concerned that kids are not going out, they're not moving around. I think kids who are in a house are a little more, they have a bit more of an advantage than kids who are living in apartments. So there's kids who haven't gone out into the fresh air for a long time. I think the first thing parents need to do is to strengthen your kids again before sending them out. So make sure they're getting enough sleep, make sure they're getting a lot of fresh food. Sleep is so important because I'm sure every parent, I myself am struggling to keep my daughter on her sleeping schedule because they're not burning off their energy during the day. They're eating a lot more, and they're just not exhausted enough to go to bed. So make sure they get enough sleep, make sure they're eating well, and try and gradually increase their level of activity. So I think we are allowed to sort of go into safe open spaces now. Try and encourage that, and get their bodies working again after this long period of normalcy. And then the other thing, I think parents need to prepare children psychologically as well. We've spent months telling them they can't go out, and for my personal situation, I spent months telling my daughter she can't touch me when I come home from the hospital. I have a shower. So even though she's only 5, she knows that this virus is around and it's very dangerous to go out there. So if I announce to her tomorrow you can go to school, even though she can't express it, she's going to think, what's going to happen? The virus is still there and I'm going out to school. So explain to your kids that, things are getting better, people are starting to go out. Start now. So, the wellness and the psychological preparation is actually a lot more important than any kind of physical process.
Right.
And you can start educating them about hand washing and how to keep your distance. It's going to be a little bit difficult for the very young children to teach them how to socially distance. I think that is going to be a bit of a challenge. But obviously for the older ones, then just talk to them about different whatever they do in school on a normal day, and go through a normal day in school and say, okay, so when that activity, you probably need to be a little bit more careful and reassure and don't panic them. I think so preparing them in the SOPs, the washing hands, the distancing. I think the teachers are well prepared to conduct those in the classroom. So I think the security is what we need.
Right. But here's the thing: if we decide for the kids to stay at home, and then now homeschooling, I've read something about Zoom fatigue. How is this real, and is it happening, Julie?
Yeah, so there has been like articles around that talks about Zoom fatigue, and I think
Yes.
even as adults, we have been on Zoom for most of our meetings and other necessary connection. We do feel that we tend to get a little more exhausted than normal. So I think that Zoom fatigue is definitely there because we are actually, even right now as we are speaking, we can see ourselves on screen, so we tend to be a little more self-conscious about how we look, how are we responding, so these are the kind of stimulations that's going on, and it definitely would cause some form of exhaustion. And the same goes for children. I can imagine on their part, if they are on Zoom, they are basically kind of like multitasking. There are multiple stimulus coming in. They have to pay attention to what the teacher is saying. Then they may be distracted with what friends are doing. And at the same time, if the teachers are giving them tasks, like a reading task or an assignment that they need to show up, they also need to start preparing for their answers. So it takes up a lot of effort, and it takes up a lot of mental energy when they are on Zoom meetings, or when they are online, when they are meeting virtually, as compared to being in a real classroom. And apart from that, we are human beings, so we are wired for connection. We rely on social cues, we rely on non-verbal cues, which sometimes it's a little difficult to gather over from this whole online portal.
Yeah. And Dr. Anushree, I mean, parents are going back to work, but kids are still at home. So what are the precautions that parents need to take as they go back to work? Besides, of course, you can't touch me when I get home.
Yeah, I think it all follows through that: protect yourself so that you can protect your family. Be sensible about exposing yourselves, and be sensible about the idea of protecting your children is to not get infected yourself. I think we mustn't forget that this disease is a viral disease, which means it spreads by droplets. Okay, so I think we initially, when we didn't know much about it, we were worried that if we touch something, we're going to get it, and I think most of the transmission now has been direct droplet spread. So don't be too overly sort of paranoid about it, but keep yourself well and keep yourself healthy and keep yourself clear of risk. And in that way, you can protect your family as well, because if you don't fall ill, your family doesn't fall ill. So
Correct.
About your exposure.
Dr. Rajbans, would you like to expand more on wellness? How parents can ensure that wellness continues at home, especially?
Yeah, I think like even Dr. Anu said that learning all that SOPs are important, so the kids should be taught. And sometimes as adults we might forget to do them ourselves, so we have to be very careful that the parents follow the SOPs in school, the teachers follow the SOPs, and changing the lifestyle is something that's going to take time, and to create new habits is never easy, But for example, how can we escape all these negative news and all these negative things coming in? I get a lot of people calling me, and I give a lot of these talks now, and I find a lot of people asking about, there seems to be a lot of fear, anxiety, and a lot of negative emotions, and that's bad for the immune system. And again, because you're at home, shopping becomes an issue. So a lot of times people today just order, so that's easy because Grab sends to you, and most of the time these are not really I would say healthy foods. So again, you end up eating a lot of foods that are refined, that have saturated fats, that have toxins and chemicals, and that makes your immune system again weaker. And the negative emotions make stress. So it's a cool thing, and not much activities. We can't sleep at night. So all these are things that they have to start changing one by one. Start thinking of changing new habits, and never change all one shot. Never decide that tomorrow I'm going to exercise and I'm going to eat healthy food and I'm going to be only reading positive things. And by the third, fourth day, you will just give up, and
Yeah,
So
it'll take only a short while, right, doctor?
yeah, and everything else, after everything just collapses. So I would start with something simple. I always tell my patients, I will take 2 liters of water a day, 8 glasses of
Even that
water.
is a bit hard.
Yeah, but at least something possible. So you can fill up the bottle and you say that at the end of the day, I completed that, and do that for 21 days to create a habit.
Yeah.
What is
Correct.
sending a message to your mind is that I can do this, I can create new habits. And then you're going to add 2 portions of vegetables into my diet every day, and do that for 21 days. I could start walking 10,000 steps, but I'll start with 2 or 3,000 and 4,000 and 5,000 and build up. And if you can change one habit every month or every few weeks, in a year, you have changed everything. And by the end of this year, in fact, your immune system is much, much better, much stronger. And I, in my talks again, have met people who are 70, 80 years old, who have never been sick in their life. Right? Never seen a
Wow.
doctor. Not good for me, lah, but they never been.
Not good for doctors
Okay,
lah.
yeah. But I'm so fascinated by these people, and they are people who are into wellness. They really know what they're doing. They're into mindfulness. They are into all the right sort of diets. They don't have stress. They exercise well, and it's really good to see people like that who are so fit and healthy in their 70s and 80s, who are still out there working and driving and going into sports, playing tennis for 2 hours. So it is possible. But to do that, you start young. You start changing your habits and do it step by step. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't get so stressed up that the changing habits becomes a stress. You know. So I want, especially the moms out there, they get sometimes excited about all this and say, that's what you do. So that's what my wife did in the house. She threw away all our bad food. And I said that became a stress because we're not prepared for that. So don't create a stress by going into wellness, but start it step by step and make it part of your life and becomes a habit.
We actually have a question on our Facebook page. Let me just put it up. How long can the virus droplets survive on surfaces? Dr. Rajban or Dr. Anu?
Anu,
I think there's a lot of information out there. People have studied the viruses and they've studied on different surfaces.
We're not experts on that, are you?
No, the thing is that the test that we use to look for virus looks for the RNA of the genetic material of the virus. So whether the virus is alive or dead, the test will come out positive. So now a dead virus cannot transmit disease. Live virus can. So the understanding is that a live virus is alive in the droplet if it immediately spread to someone else. So if someone coughs on a surface and you immediately touch that surface and touch yourself near your mouth or your nose, yes, you can get infected. But I think we have to put an ounce of common sense into any situation where we ask how long can the virus survive. So while a lot of studies have been done to show, it lives on paper for 9 hours, aluminium for 3 hours, on cold surfaces at this temperature for 20 minutes, on that temperature. Ideally, don't go near anyone who's sick. If you're having a cough, wear a mask. Try to avoid spreading or touching droplets. Okay, so I think that's a sensible practice. Because I think a lot of people have suffered a lot through this fake news and information that's coming on all our social media about don't do this, don't do that, drink this, take that. And I think common sense has to prevail. And while the virus particles are present on different surfaces, we don't really know whether they can transmit a disease. Now, most of the cases that have been studied have transmitted through contact, household contacts, crowded areas, and we know that people spread it to each other just like you do any other viral infection.
And that's why it's very important for us when we come home or do anything to wash our hands? Yes.
I think and we know that over 90% of infections are spread through our hands. Droplets are wet on our hands or still present on our hands, and then we touch other people or we touch other surfaces. Then really that's how it spreads. So just be aware of hand hygiene, and if you are coughing or sneezing, wear a mask. I think those are the two important.
We have another question here. I think this is for Jo-Lynn. What is the most productive colors for adults and children? Is there such a thing?
Well, again, it depends. Because number one, when you say productive for adults, I think at the end of the day is how do they actually deal with a lot of stress with their work, and the kind of colors for children would also be different, because I think the younger ones won't really recognize colors. So to them, being productive is just basically learning, as they are playing and everything. But I think it's usually for toddlers who are already learning to read and everything. So those kind of colors can stimulate their development, So you can look into, if you're asking like what kind of productive colors, I think usually warm colors tend to create a bit more dynamic sensorial experience. But the thing is also, at the same time, it's also very important to have a balance, because you don't want to overstimulate the child all the time, then they become tired, they become agitated very easily, they throw tantrums and all those things. So I think it's a balance. So
All right, we have another question here from Charmaine. There would be some form of stress for our kids. How can we as parents help manage their stress? So I think this one would be Julie.
Okay, that's a very good question. So you would definitely have picked up, signs of stress in your kids. And I would say that the most practical way is to ensure that our children have breaks in between. So there must be multiple breaks in between. And for kids, one of the things that's really wonderful when we talk about stress is that for kids, they actually distress by playing. And I know that it's an Asian thing. When we talk about play, it doesn't resonate very well, because we want our kids to be learning most of the time. But playing actually reduces stress. So if you find that, your kids are already online for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, ensure that the next half of the day there is sufficient time, sufficient play time. So playtime means unstructured, so you don't have to be there all the time. Allow them to go a little while, allow them to do messy play, water play, sand play. It's a little messy on the parents' end, and I know that sometimes it's difficult, right, especially when you're home together. But these are actually very natural and very therapeutic ways for kids to stress. So allow them to play, and while they are playing, they are actually making connection, and when they call you in, come and play with me, do spend time with them. It doesn't need to be a long time, just 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure that you are having face-to-face eye contact with them, and these are actually therapeutic ways to help them release stress, and it helps them feel good. Yeah, so I think that's one of the suggestions that I can give to parents. Allow them free time to play, downtime to play. And of course, if you have opportunity right now, do get out from the house. Greens are good for them. Let them do a little cycling, walk out. Just walk out from your house, and it helps a lot.
But still maintain social distancing.
Yes, maintain social distancing.
Faye, I think maybe you have a little bit of ideas for our parents, or what sort of activities or messy play is good for toddlers and young children as well?
Yes, basically things that they do with their hands. For example, like we can have painting activities. For younger age groups, maybe you can have a painting with their fingers, fingerprints, painting with like messy play, messy painting with their footprints. Yeah, like Julie said, it tends to get a little bit messy. But that is really a good way for them to release their stress. And also Play-Doh is a very good activity for them, because we can make it homemade. We can make it with flour, sugar, and oil. And then we can use food coloring. So it's perfectly safe for the children. And then they can play with it for hours. And then it also helps them to release stress. It also helps them to boost their creativity and innovation during this period. They have enough of screen time from their online lessons. So sand play is another good way for them. If you have a gardening activities, even watering the plants, playing with water play, playing with leaves, coloring, painting with leaves, with flowers. So if you have a garden, or if you're staying in an apartment, probably that's the balcony that you can actually utilize for a small gardening area, getting them in touch with nature. Not really safe to go out to the public places yet, but there are small little things that we can do from the comfort of our home.
I think we have another question for Jo-Lynn. Is makeover or painting safe for children and for kids to sleep in a painted room with paint smell?
Aha. Okay, I think this. Thanks for the question. Definitely, actually, makeovers now is actually much safer for, especially when we're all stuck at home. You know, last time gone are the days where if you were to paint your house, you literally either move out or you try to stay out of the house as often as you can. But with the technology now that we have, like for Nippon paint, we have our Green Choice series. So those paint are definitely low odor, low VOC and everything. So it's actually almost it's actually very safe, you know, because there's almost no smell coming out at all while you are painting, and when it's drying, there is actually no smell as well. So it's definitely safe, not just for the children, but also for the adults. So if let's just say for children, they also want to get involved in the painting, they are actually more than welcome because they can actually just pick up a brush and I wouldn't say they can paint themselves, but they can actually, you know, participate in activities like this. So yes, it is actually safe. Of course, given that you are picking the right range of paint.
All right. Okay, and we're talking about wellness, and Nippon Paint has 3 pillars, with 2 of them being safe touch as well as clean air. Now, would you like to elaborate more on how significant these 2 pillars are during this time?
Okay, yes. Like how Dr. Rajbans has mentioned, you know, there's wellness. It's so important to stay safe, to stay healthy and everything. And I think this MCO or CMCO has amplified that need a lot more, you know, because we are always trying to stay safe, which means we're always staying at home, you know. So, but the thing is, at the same time, we are always trying to find ways to keep the house clean. So, of course, the most common thing would be like sweeping the floor, mopping the floor, vacuuming the floor, and everything. But I mean, if you look at the first pillar, which is clean air, actually one of the things that we always forget of, we neglect, is that actually our walls are the biggest surface in the house.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think I remember the last time I cleaned my walls.
so yeah, I mean, definitely cleaning your walls is something people don't really think of. And at the same time, can your paint also actually play a more proactive role? You know, so we have paint like our odorless air care, which is actually converting formaldehyde into water vapor. So basically, is that, you know, you have cleaner air going on in the house, because you don't just rely on artificial air purifiers. You know, a lot of people are putting a lot of plants in the house now so that they can have air circulation now. So the walls can play a part. And definitely in terms of safe touch, you know, kids now, they are either they're stuck at home already. You know, when they go out, oh, please don't touch this and please don't touch that, because, you know, it's dangerous. Now, but when they come home, if you tell the kid don't touch things, also they'll be like, oh, you know, why? You know, I go out, I can't touch. I come in, I can't touch. So I think it's also very important to make sure that the coating on the wall is also safe for the children to touch. And at the same time, while we are busy battling, you know, COVID-19 and all those, there are also other viruses that we need to keep our children safe, you know, like, you know, H1N1, hand, foot, mouth disease, all these things. So, you know, pick a right paint, you know, that you can actually help battle or fight these kind of viruses and bacteria. So, yes, so it's very important to have good choices when it comes to paint, because at the end of the day is, how do you actually get your walls to play a part at home?
All right. Yeah. We have another question here. I think it's very interesting, and I think I would like to know as well. How do I know if they are under stress versus being naughty? This one also, I have a 3-year-old at home, so you can imagine sometimes it can be a little bit hectic. So this will be for Julie.
Okay, now the thing about behaviors, especially in children, is that it comes out in really interesting and subtle ways. Yeah, and I would like to believe that every child, when they are showing some signs of being naughty, or so-called naughty, there is some underlying meaning behind it. So if you do know, or you do notice that your child is, you know, showing behaviors like they are naughty, unmotivated, they refuse to sit down, there must be some reason behind it. So it could be boredom, it could be because their needs are not fulfilled, and all these are actually part and parcel of why they are behaving in such a way. So are these stress related? In some sense, yes, because they cannot regulate, or they are not able to cope with what is presented to them, and therefore it comes out in this kind of behaviors. So I would say that if your child, if you do notice that your child is showing behaviors that you think it's naughty, mischievous, not within the norm, I think the first step is actually to try to understand, is our child's needs being met, or are there areas where they need a little more help in?
Right. Okay, so I think we're running out a little bit of time. So in terms of wellness, I want to start with Dr. Rajbans. What are your take-home message for parents during this time, and also life beyond MCO?
Yeah, I mean, to look at the definition of wellness, wellness is basically proactively doing things every day to prevent a disease, right? That means, and that's very important, because I think most of us are very reactive. We only get and do things when a crisis occurs. We're not proactive. So proactive is doing things every day. And when we talk of wellness, is we go to work, we look at our finance, we look at everything, but are we proactively doing things to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves healthy, to keep our immune system strong? When I mentioned the 5 things earlier, the things like your positive attitude, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and sleep. If you do this correctly, what will happen is that you will prevent all chronic diseases. You won't get diabetes, you won't get hypertension, you won't get kidney disease, you won't get heart attack, strokes, and cancers, and you'll age well. Because the same thing, they're all the same spectrum. Building up immunity means also getting rid of all the diseases. So be proactive. Start today, and create new habits, because it's still another 6 more months, 7 months before end of the year. So if you do the things right, by next year, you will be much healthier person, a much stronger person, and you will be what I call a well person.
All right, Dr. Anushree, do you have last take-home message for parents who are watching?
Yeah, I think I follow on from Dr. Rajbans. Keep yourselves well, keep your children well, keep channels of communication open with your children, because when we all graduate back into life out there, there's going to be different anxieties, and so keep talking to your children, and reassure them, and we all need to do this together. We can't stay locked up forever. And we know we're going to have to live with this virus. So I think communication is the most important thing, and keep sensible about your food, about your activity, and your life in general.
All right, Faye, your take-home message to parents who are watching, as a school operator yourself.
Indeed,
or maybe as a parent.
Yes, definitely. We have learned many lessons from this pandemic. Nevertheless, life must go on. Yeah. So I think let's start with ourselves, by making small changes, like what Dr. Rajban and Dr. Anu has rightly mentioned. We can make small changes in our lifestyle, in our nutrition, in our food, in our exercise, and we also need to start adapting these new hygiene and distancing measures together with our children. Teach them to wear a mask, teach them to wash hands, teach them, to maintain safe distancing whenever they are out in the school, and most importantly, actually start from your home. I was telling my parents that start practicing safe distancing at home. Put boxes on the floor 1 meter apart, so that we can pretend this is a game. And when they go to school, this will be something that is really nothing really extraordinary for them. So I believe that it takes all parties to work together. Everyone needs to play their part, and definitely we can overcome this together.
All right. And Jo-Lynn, do you have any last words for our parents? I think someone is asking about antivirus paint, if it's available.
Okay. I think we to answer that question, we have an antivirus paint, which is called Virus Guard. But again, it is not for COVID-19 yet, because like how Dr. Anu says, we know so little about this virus, and the vaccine is yet to be even created. So the virus that we actually can battle is actually for H1N1 and hand-foot-mouth disease. So for that, it is actually designed specifically to combat this kind of diseases that's more prone for the children. So yes.
All right, last words from Julie. Especially when we need good words. We need some tips as parents.
Okay, I think I echo what the rest have said, but most importantly, remember that we have been. I think we should just be kind to ourselves and be kind to our kids, because we are in this time where nobody has a SOP of what we should do or what can be done. And I think what's very important is that we need to take care of our emotional health, just like our physical health. So do what we can. And for me, I always feel that it's very important to make connections during this time. As parents, it's not easy if you are home with your kids trying to balance work and all that. So there will be times where your kids are stressed, you are stressed as well, but be kind to one another. Things have, we drive each other up the walls once in a while. So do not feel too guilty about that. Always repair those relationships. Take moments to repair. And I know regardless of how bad you feel your day might be, children, when you make connection with them, they look up to you and they love you so much as parents. So I think that's my message. Be kind to ourselves. Take good care of our emotional health, and then we will be able to do it for our kids as well.
Thank you so much everyone for coming on the show. I really learned a lot as well, and I hope all the parents who are watching have I hope we answered your questions, you guys who are watching, and I hope that we kind of chatted about this whole life beyond MCO, and we answered the questions about practices and recommendations when we go back to school or workplace and so on. So thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much for all the panelists, and we won't take much more of your time. So goodbye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.